September 11th of this year, NBA star Kevin Porter Jr. was handcuffed, arrested for a vicious physical assault against a woman in a New York hotel room. Details comes out. People were very shocked to hear. We heard that it was a cracked vertebrae, that she was abused. Kysre Gondrezick is that WNBA player. When the story went out, Houston Rockets immediately suspended any contact with him, later traded to the Oklahoma basketball team. They cut him. He's not in the NBA. Case is going forward. And so when we hear these particular details of this case, people say, oh my God, how dare a man do this? How can you have a woman you're involved with who's a fellow athlete, who's a gorgeous woman? What the heck were you thinking? But what really happened? Well, Kysre Gondrezick joins us right now in this exclusive interview to talk about this because she has some concerns with regard to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And so, first and foremost, glad to have you here. Your folks reached out to me on social media, and we began to look into this, and I said, well, let's definitely have this conversation. First off, as I look at what happened. First of all, Kevin Porter Jr. was initially charged with assault in the second degree, strangulation in the second degree, assault in the third degree, and since then, the assault in the second degree charge was dropped. And so there clearly is a whole lot to unpack here. So first and foremost, and I'm just going to methodically go through this. I was going through your social media page. I think it was in February. You had posted about y'all been together for 1 year. On September 11th, were the two of you still together? Were you dating? Were you still involved in a relationship in September? Yes, we were. Okay. And so what happened? The affidavit shows an incident that took place in the morning, around 6 a.m. that morning. I'm going to read from some of that in a little bit, but from your perspective, what happened? Were you physically assaulted by Kevin Porter Jr. in a New York hotel room?
Do I feel as if that he intentionally tried to cause me great harm? No. I do not believe that at all.
What does that mean? What does that mean when you say, do I feel that he was not trying to intentionally cause me great harm? Did the two of you have an argument? First of all, were you still awake? Did you wake up? I mean, 6 o'clock in the morning is early. So set for me the scene of what happened that led to this altercation.
Yeah, I don't believe that I was physically assaulted. We were in New York. Attending New York Fashion Week. Just earlier that night, we had just finished attending a fashion show. I had some meetings early the next morning to attend to, so I decided to call it an early night. He stayed out with his friends, his teammates, and obviously came back at a later time. Me being asleep, I was unaware of the fact that he was locked out of the room. Security, to my understanding, helped let him in. And I was awakened to, just yelling and him being very adamant about wanting to have a conversation with me that even still to this day, I don't even know what that was, about. I was, very hazy, being awakened from sleeping, and I could smell, a hue of alcohol. Clearly it wasn't the right space nor the right time frame to even have a conversation. And as, he grabbed me by my shoulders to try to wake me up to have that, I stand up, very quickly on the bed, and I fall off the side of the bed and hit the side of my eye on the wall. And that's where the laceration above my eye came from. There was a makeup splat and a little blood splat on the wall to justify and support that injury. I don't know if you've ever tried to stand up on a bed. There's actually no support. There is so much imbalance that I fell. And in hindsight of that, I noticed blood. And to be completely honest, I was in shock. I kind of I don't know, I kind of panicked and I ran out the room. And when I ran out the room, the security officer that had let him in was still standing at the elevator. So it just goes to show you how fast and such a blur the whole incident, happened, that the guy that let him in was still standing outside waiting to go down. And to my understanding, that's when they escorted me down, and I heard that he was arrested.
I'm looking at the signed complaint. Go to my iPad, please. It says the factual basis for these charges are as follows. I am informed by a person known to the district attorney's office, informant one, that she observed the defendant strike her repeatedly about the face with a closed fist, causing a laceration above her right eye and bruising and substantial pain to her face. I am further informed by informant one that she observed the defendant use his hands to apply pressure to her neck by forcefully squeezing it, causing her to experience difficulty breathing, redness and bruising to her neck, and substantial pain. One, when they say informant one, is that you?
No, it is in a recording from the supervisor acknowledging that the criminal complaint that you're reading and that was filled out was from what officers believed they thought happened at the time. And I have her saying that word for word and apologizing to me for putting out non-factual information that was not valid to my truth.
So hold on one second. So again, this is a signed complaint by, go back to my iPad, because it says the people of the state of New York against Brian Porter. This is a sworn statement from police officer Patrick Amato. And it says false statements made in this written instrument are punishable as a Class A misdemeanor pursuant to Section 214.45 of the penal law and as other crimes. So you are saying that what is stated in this signed complaint by a New York police officer, that you did not say any of these things to the police officer?
No, the criminal complaint was filled out what officers believed to happen at the time, and by hearsay regarding evidence that they heard medical personnel talking about what my injuries were that was inaccurate.
So we're talking, but again, as I read this here, when a statement says that she observed the defendant strike her repeatedly about the face with a closed fist, and then that pressure was applied to her neck by forcefully squeezing it, causing her to experience difficult breathing. So you're saying Kevin Porter Jr. never hit you in the face with a closed fist?
No, he never balled his fist up and hit me in the face numerous times, nor did he ever strangle me to the point where there was lacerations around my neck or where he fractured my spine and my neck. Those allegations are not true.
Okay, and you did supply us, you had a conversation with the district attorney's office. Folks, cue that up, where, as you said, they told you that they apologized for these details being made public. Guys, go ahead and play that.
Information that was conveyed earlier at the arraignment, that no one had any consent or anything in writing from her, as she's just kind of processing all of this, and you're still releasing information that she has not given a document, no statement or anything, but you're just attaching all of this for a storyline?
Well, first of all, I completely hear you. This must be so overwhelming to see in the press what we're saying, and you're not getting as much information from us as we would like you to get. So I'm so sorry about how this.
Oh, no, this isn't about us getting information about what you all have and you all releasing information to us. It's about information that you're releasing that Kysre has not given a voice to. She has not given you a statement. She has not given you any consent to release any of her records, any of her information with her physical status or any injuries that you sat there and said, oh, I'm sorry for, because in order to what? To make you all's case? For today, for court, for the arraignment, that you made those statements? And she didn't give you permission to do that. And so it's still coming out? So just 5 minutes ago, there's more coming out that your voice is attached to?
Let me first of all say, we have not released any statements to the press. What's being quoted is what I said in court this morning. We are not speaking or releasing anything.
And like I said to you earlier, when you said what you said, the quotes that came from the arraignment this morning, you said you made those statements in order to give the enforcement to the charges that you all were filing against Mr. Porter. She did not give you that. She did not give you that information. She did not tell you that information. It is a further violation for you to turn around and release her medical information.
I'm happy to explain. So, first of all, the statements that are being attributed to her in the press, that is coming from police reports and police documents. The statement that I made and that is in the criminal court documents about her injuries, that is something that the police officer heard.
Whether he heard it or not, to misrepresent that is still her confidential information. But you turn around and reiterated, you repeated it and said it in the arraignment for the courts, as if like it's something that you all were given consent to release. And that was inappropriate, and that was a violation of her own personal rights for her medical history, for the sake of your case.
Yes, so...
But you couldn't wait until she would sit down to have a conversation with you all.
We could not legally wait. We are required to file the complaints within a certain number of hours. That is why I very much wanted to speak with you.
Right, and so just because you weren't able to speak with her, who gave you authorization to what? To file the complaint, on behalf of whom?
We are legally required to file a complaint within a certain amount of hours.
On behalf of whom?
This is why...
On behalf of whom? And I'm asking you a question, on behalf of whom?
On behalf of the people of the state of New York. This is the job that we do.
Okay, on behalf of the people of the state of New York.
All right, so there's about another 3 minutes of the conversation. First of all, Kysre, who is talking to the woman there? She is with the Manhattan DA's office, Myra Kysre. She's the intimate partner in Sexual Violence Bureau of the New York DA's office. So who's talking to her on that audio recording?
That is my mom.
Okay, so your mother is talking to her. All right. A lot of times when we have these cases, and we've seen this numerous times, whether it involves athletes, entertainers, or even just regular ordinary folks, that women who have been victims of domestic violence often recant. You're saying here that what they describe as taking place, none of that happened.
No, and I've never recanted a statement. I came out publicly. My attorney spoke on my behalf 2 days after the event through Baller Alert, appreciating all of the community's support and prayers, but to please avoid speculation for evidence and allegations that have been reported are false and misleading. I released that information 2 days after the event. If you continue...
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you continue to play the audio, she specifically verbatimly states that because she did not talk to me, she had to bring forth some information to bring forth the elements of the case and elements of the crime against him, meaning that she cultivated her own narrative to make some type of false information to make stick to support the charges that she was bringing against Mr. Porter. That, as you can hear her say, that she never got a chance to speak with me first.
Okay, so your attorneys also, and your team sent us this, go to my iPad here, where y'all wanted the protective order lifted because, as here it says, there are many things that she has to discuss with him, including finances, moving, possessions, etc. She would also like her actual physical condition be revealed and that there not be any exaggeration of what happened and that any prior incorrect statements be clarified and addressed on the 16th. Your attorneys offered to have a Zoom call to discuss this further. And so I guess just what is I'm just still trying to understand. Again, when I read a complaint and I see these things listed, one, the public often believes when, obviously, when the DA's office, police officers release information, there are assumptions that they actually talk to the individual involved. And so you're saying At no time that you actually that they didn't interview you. So when they arrived, when the police arrived on the scene, because you said when he left, you actually when you ran out, went down to the elevator, and you went downstairs, he was under arrest. At no time you sat down and actually talked to police, DA's office, on the scene, at the precinct. Nothing was ever recorded, video or audio, nothing along those lines.
They asked me at the scene as to what happened, and I told them I don't know. Clearly, I was in distraught. I had a lot of people around me telling me what they thought happened. When I was in the hospital room, they asked me to write down a statement. They asked me to record me to give a statement. I told them that I could not give one. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. They asked me to write a statement. I asked them, I said, are you allowed to write a statement for me? They said, no, legally we are not allowed to. But then next thing you know, I see a criminal complaint that is filled out by police officers. And I have a supervisor who called me in October and told me that the criminal complaint was filled out by what officers believed to have happened at the time, as I recorded that conversation as well.
Who called the cops? How did they arrive at the scene?
I don't know who called the cops. I didn't call the police.
Your attorneys, so there's no 911 call or anything along those lines coming from the hotel or anything like that that you're aware of?
To be honest with you, Mr. Roland, I don't know who called. I still don't know who called the police to this day.
Shortly after it happened, your sister posted some comments on Instagram. So she was obviously angry at him for what allegedly happened. Did you then shortly thereafter communicate with her? Because that post, obviously, what she posted went viral because she was very angry at what allegedly happened.
Yeah, so obviously she reacted in a way that the general public did with the information that was released without communicating with me or my mom at the time. I hadn't even spoken with my mom either until I got back to the hotel and was able to FaceTime her to see me that I was perfectly okay. So I can't penalize her for that. But when she was able to connect with my mom and my mom was able to give her some insight that the things that were posted and falsely accused were not true, she removed the post. And so that's why they are no longer present.
There are going to be folks who are watching this, who are hearing this, who are going to say, this sounds like a young lady who was involved in a relationship who is trying to protect him in his career. What do you say to folks who may believe that's the case?
Yeah, this isn't about Kevin. This is about me. This is about the integrity of who I am, the woman that I've worked so hard to become, the name that I've worked so hard to create. And to not allow someone who's in a position to feel entitled or to feel empowered to be able to misrepresent my voice and who I am. You know, with the district attorney's office jumping to conclusions that I would be on the same side as their injustice, it backfired. What they saw was an African-American male. They saw a professional athlete. They saw a young woman who was in complete distraught and speechless and shocked and still trying to process everything that's going around her and believed that it would be a win-win situation for both parties involved. One on their end where it would catapult a career. It would make the storyline of the year. And on my end where I would be gaining some, some money, some type of increase in value, and it would be a win-win situation. But clearly they didn't do the research of who I am and who I represent. This is about my employers. This is about me making sure that I come forward and speak my truth so that this isn't about me trying to win over the general public, but in my workplace, my circle, that I'm not going to allow someone to misrepresent who I am. And I don't believe in defaming someone else's character and integrity in order to add value to my worth, to put out false information, to speak on my behalf, to cultivate injuries that never even occurred. I am an athlete. I have dreams of my own. I played in the WNBA before I met Kevin. He came along and helped add value to my life. But I was my own person. I am my own person. And this isn't about protecting him. This is about protecting who I am and what I stand for. And to know that this could come at the hands of those that are supposed to protect and serve. to manipulate and to falsify evidence to add value to their integrity and to not consider my own. It's completely defamatory, corruptive, and injustice. And that is why I'm speaking out and giving my testimony to my truth, because if they can do this to me and I'm supposed to be the victim, I can only imagine the countless of lies that they have done this to and try to cover up for. I have word for word of emails of a DA telling me, after I've given her information and identified the injustice, of whether or not she wants to disclose this information in a court of law. This is a crime. This is a felony. No civilian can sit up on a stand and lie. No civilian can sit up on a stand and manipulate evidence. No civilian can sit up on a stand and try to generate an own narrative to bring forward charges against someone. And to know that you have an assistant district attorney and other parties involved in the department that knew about it and did this in a court of law. This is a crime, and they should not be above the law in any type of matter to be able to bring defamatory and completely stifle someone's life and ruin their career. And I'm talking about my own, not Kevin's.
This is not the first time you talked. October 18th, last month, go to my iPad, you posted this on your Twitter page where you said, it has been deeply frustrating and disturbing by the manipulation of what was stated by the prosecution. Then you said the harassment and eagerness for me to support these claims to justify their position and remarks as a matter an assistant DA took into her own hands while I was vulnerable, emotionally healing, and unavailable at the time of information being released. Do you want to see all of the charges against Kevin Porter Jr. to be dismissed?
I'm not in a position to make that. That's not my call.
Right. You're not in a position to make that, but if you were saying that the things in which he has been charged with did not happen, if you were saying that he didn't punch you in the face repeatedly, that he did not strangle you, that none of those things actually happened, then he is being wrongfully charged.
Absolutely.
So you're saying that what they are alleging, what he is being charged with is absolutely, positively, 100% completely false. And if you're saying that, that means those charges should be dropped.
Absolutely. That is why one of them have been dropped already. And they've already offered this man a plea deal of no jail time that they didn't report. But they have it out in the general public and to the media that he's still facing 2 charges. There's so much information that they're withholding because they are refusing to take accountability for their actions and manipulating this entire case to catapult their own injustice.
There's, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but you have another case in the Manhattan DA's office involving actor Jonathan Majors. His attorneys have suggested that the DA's office has been grossly unfair. NYPD wanted to arrest the woman who filed a complaint against him. The DA's office say they're not going to prosecute. I can't, and also, look, you have a DA in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, who's African American. And so I don't know what his involvement is in, drilling down in these sort of individual cases. But I'm sort of struck by these 2 cases in particular, 2 high-profile African Americans. Their lawyers obviously doing what the lawyers doing what they were supposed to do. But to hear you say that a complaint was filed, giving the impression that you said all of these things, and a month after it happened, you say on your own Twitter account it didn't happen. Here you are now a month later, it didn't happen, saying it did not happen. That clearly has to be angering you, that the DA's office is just standing firm on this, and by saying, well, we got a complaint, we have to prosecute, but you are the alleged victim who's saying it didn't happen.
Yeah. I'm very angry. I'm disappointed. I'm shocked. You never believe that things can happen to you until they happen to you, right? And so I try to, put faith in my Creator and giving me the peace and knowing that I was placed here for a reason, that there is purpose through this experience, and I'm realizing that it is to highlight the injustice of what really goes on behind closed doors in these departments and with these prosecutors. And for me to record and to have these informations in writing and through email and through phone call conversations. I never did that with the intention of sitting here, before you today, sharing this information. I did that for my own personal safety, but I thank God that I did, because I truly believe that without this evidence that no one would believe me, given the fact that information that's supposed to come from the DA's office, that's supposed to come from law enforcement, is supposed to be credible and factual. And to know that they can do this and withhold information and disregard information, it's very unsettling, and it's disheartening and very disturbing. And I feel like it's my duty to come forth and talk about it, because they tried to defame the integrity of who I am, to bring forth charges against someone that never did any of these things that they have against him. And the fact that they blatantly know that, the fact that they're so arrogant and highlighting and apologizing to me for what they've done, but are refusing to do so to the general public. When I see information on social media, I'm just as surprised as everyone else, because those aren't the conversations that we have behind closed doors with my attorney and the assistant district attorney's office.
So at any point in all of this, have you sat down with the Manhattan DA's office and done a formal interview? And have you, let's say that same complaint, have you filed anything with them under oath, under threat of perjury, that these things did not happen? Has any of that happened?
I never sat down in front of them. I did a Zoom call with them, expressing to them what happened a week later. That was the first time that I spoke to them. As you can see with the countless of phone calls and the emails, my attorney made them very aware that these things did not happen. Me highlighting this is a result of them dropping one of the charges. And after they come to find out that...
they said that he had fractured your vertebrae, and then came out and said, no, that actually didn't happen.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, they knew that 3 weeks before they even released it.
Well, first of all, how do they even arrive at fracturing a neck vertebrae? Where did that even come from?
If you heard on the phone, Mr. Roland, the information that she received was by what a police officer overheard. So she's basing this evidence based on hearsay of what a police officer was ear hustling about what my injuries were, and didn't wait until my records came back to identify that was never even factual.
Because again, if I'm a reporter, okay, and if I'm a journalist, but even if I wasn't, if I hear police say, this woman suffered a fractured neck vertebrae, I'm instantly thinking she was checked out by paramedics. There was an x-ray. It showed that happened. You're saying there was no fracture. There was nothing along those lines. There was no x-ray. That statement alone was based upon what a police officer heard.
You hear her say that in the phone conversation, yes. And a doctor came forward to Fox News, who I don't even know who the doctor's name was, that came forth and said, it was in an article, that he was unaware of where this information came from. But the thing that they found was a congenital defect, I believed, in my spine, which I don't even know, between you and I don't even know what that is. Maybe something that I was born with.
We've seen this in other athletes where they're born with that's later discovered when it comes to an insurance claim or whatever, because normally you don't have those deeply sort of intensive physicals. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so to hear her say that on the phone, that was a result of what a police officer heard, that's when it kind of woke me up. Okay, what else have you guys falsely, cultivated a narrative on surrounding this case? And as the information that got released, it was on the hour. Like, new information was getting released by the hour And I had no idea where this information came from. But after a supervisor of the department told me on the phone that is recorded, told me this in October. It is now November that the criminal complaint was filled out by what officers believe they thought happened at the time, and that they apologized for the false narrative, and that they only want to move forward with the actual truth. This is a conversation they had with me that they have yet to release, and it is now almost the end of November.
So, all right, go to my iPad. This right here is Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg.
Yes.
Are you and your attorneys, have you or are you requesting a meeting specifically with him regarding what you consider to be malfeasance on the part of his assistant district attorneys?
To my understanding, that was actually my attorney's angle, was to reach out to Alvin Bragg at some point to be able to have a conversation with him about the injustice that was happening, and putting forth confidence in him, given the fact that he is an African-American male. But we have yet, heard a response from anyone. I've also had my attorney call the supervisor, who was also a former prosecutor as well, and he has yet to hear anything back from them. So it's very unfortunate to believe and to know that the people that are supposed to protect, my safety, can bring forth harm and completely be dismissive of a situation that, was very traumatic to me. But they've added and compounded more trauma into my life than Kevin did.
Again, there were about 3 different audio calls that your team sent to us, and I just want to again just show for folks. I'm not showing actual phone numbers or emails, but Robert Hantman is your attorney. This is an email that is sent to the assistant DA October 15th, and Dear Myra, thank you for your prompt response to us today. As we understand that the charges against Mr. Porter will be reduced tomorrow, it is important to our client that it be stressed that she was not responsible for the original complaint and allegations, and that she not be connected to it, so it doesn't look like she was the responsible for releasing incorrect information to the general public. She suggests the following. There's some additional language. So, if we're going back, September 11th, when this all came down, it was just the 2 of you in a New York hotel room. Argument ensued. You're awakened by him. Security lets him in. You say you stood up on the bed and fell off of the bed, and that's how you cut your eye, right?
Yes.
You were like, okay, look, I'm asleep. Why is this dude yelling? Why is he screaming? What the hell's going on? And so then you just run out of the hotel room, correct?
Yes.
You run to the elevator. The security who let him in is still at the elevator. Did you and that security officer ride down?
Yes.
And you said, how long was it? You said when you got downstairs, that cops were on the scene and they were going to arrest him.
I don't know. I didn't find out that he was arrested until I was in the hospital.
So when you went downstairs, you had a cut. What happened? Did someone call an ambulance, and then the ambulance came, and then you were taken to the hospital?
Yes, which they left me unattended in the hospital for 5 to 6 hours.
So you're in the hospital. At any point, is NYPD at the hospital taking notes, talking to you?
No, there was nothing for me to give them. That's when they had asked me to do a written complaint. I told them that I couldn't fill it out at the time. That's when I asked, were they allowed to do so? They said legally they are not allowed to do so. And then they asked me if they could do a recording of me stating what happened. I told them I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I'm still trying to process everything. And I kept begging and pleading to them, can I get my phone? Can I get some form of contact to be able to contact my family and my mom, which they left me unattended. They didn't let me know until after my discharge. Oh, by the way, this is all over the media, just so you know. I asked them, I said, who released this information? They said, well, legally, we are not allowed to. I said, but you guys are the only ones that are present. Yeah, well, legally, we're not allowed to. And the first post that I see is Kysre Gondrezick was hospitalized with severe bruising and at least one broken bone. The only people that were present were the police.
To reiterate, you made it clear in this interview, you are not doing this for Kevin Porter Jr. to absolve him of anything. You said this is about you. One, are the two of you still together? Because in your statement,
No,
you don't.
we're
Go ahead.
not together. No, we're not together.
You're not together. You haven't had any communication with him or his camp regarding any of this.
No, I have not. There was also a protective order in place that didn't allow for that to happen.
Is that protective order still in place?
It has been currently lifted as to 2 weeks ago, and
Right.
there has still been no contact.
Gotcha. And again, your attorneys also wanted it to be lifted so the two of you could have, or your respective camps could have discussions about things I guess y'all had jointly, possessions, homes, all things along those lines.
Yes.
You said earlier, and I wanted to come back to it. You talked about you're doing this for your sake, your name, and things and how you have been impacted. Do you believe that as a result of this story and it going national and it going international, again, the NBA, the Rockets having no contact with him, essentially being suspended, they trade him. Oklahoma City cuts him. He's not picked up by anybody. It's all over. Do you believe that this absolutely has had a negative impact on you? You're a WNBA player, you list as actress, as model on your Twitter. Do you believe this has negatively impacted you, even though you were the alleged victim?
Right, absolutely. It has created a narrative that I support what happened to me based off of the false narrative that was put out there. It also, degrades, who I am, my employers, the things that I had set up before this situation happened, very big partnerships that it now comes across that I am, not integral. I'm not credible to work with.
Excuse me one second, Kysre. Are those partnerships, have they been placed on hold?
Everything in my life has been placed on hold because people want to know what is going on and what's the truth. And all I've asked for now 2 months now for them to take accountability for what they've done. And the fact that I have information, the fact that I came out with articles regarding since September the 12th. The incident happened on September the 11th. And it is now, I believe, November the 14th, 15th, that they still have yet to take accountability, that they're still, promoting and falsifying information to the public in a court of law. That's the part where I'm appalled, to that they feel arrogant enough to withhold information and not include anything that I've said. They disregarded my value. They disregarded, my character and undermining that to elevate their own. This isn't about me winning over social media. I don't live a life based off of other people's perception of me. Who I've been and just the career that I've had has forced me to become in a place where I've had to gain the wisdom and the strength to not allow other people's perceptions of me let that have any value or merit to how I view myself on a daily basis. This is about me standing in my purpose. This is about the conversations that I have with God as to why am I here? Why is this being hyped up more than what it actually was? And to know that they could do this to someone. This isn't about Kevin I'm speaking about. To me, the victim, and not taking any merit as to a situation that only happened to me, and to try to, fixate that into their own narrative to bring forth charges against someone. I'm just truly appalled, to be honest with you, Mr. Roland, and I feel like it's necessary for me to come and speak my truth. I'm a very strong Black woman. I haven't complained. I've taken my hits. I have my days where I feel really empowered. I feel untouchable. And then I have other moments where I can't even get out of bed, and just trying to put one foot in front of the other. Me being a Black woman, being raised by a Black woman, I'm going to figure it out. It's going to be okay. And I'm not going to let any man do to me what they put out there. That's for certain. But at the same time, if it didn't happen that way, I'm not going to be silent about it either. I have a younger brother. If someone did this to him, I would be very angry. I would be furious, and I would tell him to do the same thing that I'm doing. Don't allow someone else in your fear of their position to keep you silent. If anything, I hope that me speaking my truth on this platform encourages others to do the same that have been wrongfully accused or have been in this situation before that don't have my resources or the platform to do so. And that's why I feel like I'm here, ultimately to get Kysre's life back. Not, Kysre and Kevin, Kysre's life back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna rest until there's justice that is served. What they've done is a crime. It is a felony. They wouldn't allow us to get away with it. They're human too, and I don't think that they should be above the law at all,
And
especially through experience.
and in the year and a half the two of you were together, there was never an instance of any physical altercations, anything along those lines.
Not at all, and it's unfortunate to know that the people, the organization, the Rockets, just 5 days before this incident, we were out to dinner with the general manager and his wife. You had the owner of the organization say that out of all the players that he's ever had, that Kevin was by far his favorite. It goes to show you what they thought about who we were together as a couple, that I wasn't detrimental to his career and he wasn't detrimental to mine. So it's disheartening to know that the false allegations that was put forth by someone who's supposed to be credible could add value and change the perception of how people just viewed us collectively and individually. It's unfortunate and it's sad. And I hope that, as we're on our separate paths, to just remain independent through these legal spaces, and that hopefully, restoration will give us a sense of peace at some point.
Well, Kysre, you could have talked to a lot of folks. I appreciate you coming to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network to share your story. Please keep us in the loop. Hopefully, you will hear back from Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. I can tell you I'll be reaching out to him directly. Also, would love to hear from him as well with regards to this case and whether he will sit with you as well as your attorneys to talk about what you are calling a fraudulent account. And you literally use those words in your Twitter post October 18th, a fraudulent account by his assistant district attorneys.
I appreciate it, and I am thankful for you giving me this platform to share my truth.
Thanks a bunch, and you take care.